creative people. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you guys are ready to create and excited to get our imaginative brains activated and engaged. We will be starting shortly, and I decided that this week I'm dedicating the whole week to symmetry because it can be a very, like complex idea that you can develop as an artist, but we're going to start from the basics and work our way up. Okay? So before I tell you guys what you need today, I just wanted to emphasize how important it is to be creating at home right now or just in general. Sometimes when we're bored or we're just in the house or we find ourselves in a place where there just kind of seems to be nothing, like you're all movied out, you're all tableted out, if that's a word, and you just feel like, is there anything to do? Like, what is my purpose? Creativity or creating any kind of way doesn't have to just be art. You can be creating a song or creating a play. Creating is really important to help remind you that you have a purpose and you have the ability to express meaning in different ways. And expressing meaning in different ways can help people really receive something that you might have to say in a way they might not have received it if you just, told them right away to their face. So just remember that creating today is really important and don't stop. So by joining me today, you are helping activate that, all right, in a certain way. So what you're going to need for your project today, very simple items today, very basic. You are going to be needing scissors. You're going to need glue or tape, preferably glue sticks would be good. You are going to need a scrap piece of paper, like a background. You have lots of options, like as you can see, I'm going to use a cookbook page, but you can use junk mail. You can use the back of maybe a letter or something that is being thrown away. You can use a book page. You could use, I actually have here, I'm always showing you guys the latest junk that I've collected. I actually have a map. I'm planning on using that eventually, but I could use this as a background. You could use a music page, a coloring page. There's lots of things you could use if you don't have white paper, okay? So you have your background, and then you need a lot of printed material today. So magazines, old mail, old books. There's lots of things you could use. Like I've said in past videos, you could use even grocery bags, like the paper bags, like from Trader Joe's or something. Those have printed images on them. So anything that's printed, even really thin boxes that you have like snacks in or granola bars in, something like that, you could use that as well. Okay, so there's lots of ideas that you can use for your printed materials. All right, so before we get started on diving into symmetry, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to start selling art kits. Now, this first two kinds of art kits are going to be more basic. So it's basically the essentials that you can start off with to start creating in a fresh way from your house. But I plan on creating more kits in the future, like paint kits or like really crafty kits, like with like those little pom-poms and like pipe cleaners and stuff like that. So I'm planning on making kits in the future that are more focused on certain kinds of art, but I just wanted to put an essential kit out there. So if you go on the Brightness Laughs page, you can find out more information about that, and I will be starting to ship them in May. Okay, so we are going to start off with talking about symmetry, because it sounds like a big word, but it's not complicated once you get the hang of it. Okay, so symmetry is the idea that if I cut something in half, it's the same on both sides. So one way I can see that is if I fold this butterfly, both sides match, okay? And when you open it, it's like the shape just flips over and it's symmetrical, okay? So another way to see that is if I have a shape that I have this football. If I have this shape that I fold in half, okay, so there's one side of the football, and I put it up against a mirror, it shows the other half of the shape, okay? And that's another way to test to see, is this symmetrical or not, okay? If I have an image that is one-sided, let's see, for example, I have this picture right here. Okay, so let's say I want to fold this picture in half just to test and see if it's symmetrical. On one side, I have the slice of breakfast casserole, and the other side, I have the spoon going into the bowl. So that's not necessarily symmetrical because it's not the same like a flipped image on both sides. Okay? Now, if the mint part wasn't here and I cut this jar in half, it would be the same on both sides. So this would be symmetrical. Okay? So we're going to keep practicing with that idea as we go. But it shouldn't be too difficult as you guys keep practicing. Okay? So I'm going to get my scrap piece of paper started. And what you want to do is you want to create guidelines to help you figure out where the middle is and where the horizontal line is, which is the side-to-side line, okay? So I'm just going to make a quick fold. I just want to make the mark on the paper. I'm not trying to really fold it. I just want to know where that half mark is. And as you guys can see, even the paper I'm using is symmetrical because I can fold it in half and both sides match, okay? So I have that line right here to show where the middle is. And then I'm going to fold the other way to show where the other middle is. Okay, so the very center of the page is where the horizontal and the vertical line meet in the middle, right here. Okay, so you want to pay attention to where the middle of the page is because that will help you as you're creating your symmetrical design. Okay, now what you're going to do is something that helped me to create the one that we're going to do today. You could think of a theme that you want to create your symmetrical design with. You don't have to, but it's just an idea, okay? So for mine, I'm going to focus on music because I have some guitar magazines. And if there's something that I would like to add that I don't have, you can always draw it as well and turn it into a symmetrical shape, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find, before I start cutting anything out, I'm going to find some images that have to do with music. Isn't that cool? I really liked that one. Okay, and I'm going to make sure to cut them out nice and neat, because remember when you're cutting out shapes to add to a work of art, if you do not cut them out neatly, it can hinder the viewer from really seeing what you're communicating. So I'm going to cut out my symmetrical shape, and remember, like we just talked about, if you're not sure if it's symmetrical, think about if you cut it in half, would you be able to flip the shape over on the other side and it would match. So this piano, if I fold it in half, it matches the other side, and if I flip it, it's the same on both sides. It's symmetrical, okay? So I got my piano. I'm going to fix the edges on my speaker and cut that guy out. And before I start getting my shapes ready, another thing that you can do is you can figure out a symmetrical shape to put in the very middle of your design just to give you like an anchor for all of your images. So a symmetrical shape would be one that if you fold it in half and then open it, it's like the two shapes flip and meet to make one shape, okay? So a heart would be another symmetrical shape, A star would be another symmetrical shape. But if you wanted to make an arrow a symmetrical shape, you would have to split it in half horizontally rather than vertically. So that's something you want to pay attention to. Not all shapes will be in half from the top to the bottom. Sometimes they're symmetrical from the side to side. Okay? So I got a couple shapes ready. I'm going to do a quick shape in the middle. I think I'm going to make a symmetrical star to go with my music theme. And I'm going to put that in the very middle, okay, to anchor my art design. Da, da, da. There we go. I just realized that I'm doing a music theme on a cookbook page. I don't know what kind of message that's sending. Maybe that music is like food to the soul. I don't know. I just made that up. All right. There we go. All right. Now, when you have your shapes, you have two options. I could just place this in the very center so that the viewer can see that these shapes are flipped. Or I can cut it in the middle and place it anywhere I want on the page. So once I place it on one side of the symmetrical line, I need to put the other side exactly opposite of where the first one would be. Okay? So let's say I twist it and put it on this side of the line in the middle. That means this one has to be a mirror image of the one that I have on this side. That's the rule for this art design, okay? So whatever you put on one side, you just have to imagine a mirror reflecting on this side, and it would just be the opposite. Okay, so I'm going to start out with my two speaker halves and glue those puppies down. If you guys have any questions, please post in the comments. I know that this concept can be a little difficult to grasp at first. I hope I'm explaining it well enough. All right. Here we go. That looks cool. Now I'm going to cut my piano in half. Let me see. Ooh, it would be cool to like have my piano like that so it kind of has this cool design. Okay. And if you can't see the middle of yours, because mine's a little vague, I could take a pencil and just outline the line down the half to make sure I know exactly where my shapes are reflecting off of each other. And then I'm going to get my guitar. It's really cool because when you look at symmetry in nature, there's a lot of symmetrical things. I don't blame you, Louise. There's lots of things you can use besides books. Are you up for cutting magazines? That's what I'm cutting right now. All right. So I'm going to put this guy up here. I like putting things at an angle. Yeah, that looks cool. But yeah, when you look at nature, you notice that there are lots of symmetrical things. Like if you think about cutting open a tomato or an orange, you'll find that a lot of times the inside halves, they both look the same on the inside. They're symmetrical. The interesting thing that I've found, though, if you look up like symmetrical nature photos, you'll find a lot of like really perfect shots of like fruit or flowers. There's like symmetrical leaves or like really cool ocean creatures like coral or starfish that are symmetrical. But a lot of times those photos aren't the common thing that you find. A lot of times nature isn't perfectly symmetrical. It might be like wonky, or it might have, like, if you think of a tree that was cut down, you look at the rings on the trunk, you might find that sometimes there's a circle that's really perfect with the rings that are concentric, but a lot of times that wood piece is kind of wonky. It doesn't look like a perfect circle. And I think that's really cool because that shows us that just because nature can be symmetrical, a lot of times it's not. But nature is still beautiful. So you don't have to have perfection in order to have beauty, you know? I just thought that was really cool, a really cool understanding of like what's beautiful, and that we don't have to be perfect in order to have value. You know what I mean? Just a thought. All right, every time I'm cutting an object that I want to put on my design, I want to make sure to fold it first to know exactly where the middle is. Originally, one of the first artists to really emphasize symmetry was Leonardo da Vinci, and he was able to notice and focus on how the body is perfectly symmetrical. So if you cut us in half from our head all the way down, it's the same thing. It's perfectly symmetrical. That's how God made us, which is really cool to think about. But Leonardo da Vinci was such an inspiring artist because he was involved in not only art but also science, and he just had such an intuitive and inventive mindset, which I think is so cool, because creativity is more than just doing art, or it's more than just making pretty things. There's a lot to creativity that Leonardo da Vinci embraced. So I'm cutting these rectangles out. They're not exactly symmetrical if you look at the words, but if you just look at the colorful rectangles, you could make them into symmetrical, long, stretched rectangles. Ooh, these are going to add some pops of color, I think. These are going to look cool. Yeah, I like that. Sometimes when I'm making art like this, it's kind of like, once I'm done, I'm like, well, like for example this, like what would I do with this necessarily? It's just kind of like me goofing around a little bit. It looks cool, but it's not really, I don't know, what is it kind of thing. So something that you guys can do that I like to do sometimes is just make art like this and then just kind of save it for later. And then if I need to make a card real quickly for someone, or decorate like a notebook or something, I have these kinds of art pieces that I've done before that kind of need a purpose, and I'll use them for stuff like that. So something that I've been exploring this week is sending letters to people, and that would be so cool if you made this cool symmetrical design and then turned it into like a card, or even like a cool like big magnet for the fridge or something like that, and then you could gift it to like one of your neighbors, or ask your parents to send it to somebody that you are friends with. That would just bring such cheer to someone, you know. Or if like someone was like in the nursing home and they got a cool card from you that's like uniquely designed, that would be so cool to like spread the joy that way, you know. So think about that as you are creating. Some of these things you might make and you might not think much of them, but you could always turn them into a encouraging message to give away to somebody else. And I know there's lots of people who would love to get art from you guys, so think about it. All right, that's looking so cool. I love that. Remember to fold in half all the shapes you cut out. Find the middle, cut down the middle, and then find a way to put them on your symmetrical design. And yet again, if you kind of get confused about how to place your pieces, one thing you could do is place one piece somewhere. So you're like, okay, that's where I want it. And then put the piece that you're going to put on the other side, kind of make it like a flip. So put it on top and be like, okay, I'm just going to flip it over the line that I put in the middle, and boom, it's symmetrical. Okay? So that's another way you can figure out how to do it if you're a little confused. Okay. The cool thing about this project is you could literally make layers and layers of symmetrical designs on top of each other. I don't know if you guys have ever looked through a kaleidoscope, but that's what kaleidoscopes are. They're just shapes that are placed against a mirror. There's like a reflecting effect inside of the kaleidoscope, and that's what makes it symmetrical. So when you look through kaleidoscopes, there's lots of different designs, and that's what you could create with this project. You could literally have layers upon layers and make it really complex. I kind of got into that when I was doing this one, and I wanted to keep layering on top of each other, but I didn't want it to look too complicated, so that's why I did that. But yeah, there's lots of possibilities with when you start introducing symmetry into art. I love this. This is looking so cool. I'm going to make this rectangle a little smaller. Okay. Once you get the hang of it too, you kind of don't even have to think about it. You just start placing things in certain areas, and it's kind of like relaxing, like just calming to place shapes in different spots to make patterns. I've really gotten into triangles this year. I don't know why, but just drawing triangles against each other to make patterns is really, I don't know, calming, I found. I'm also going to place some on the side. Now, I feel like I need some more music notes to like represent my theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a scrap piece of paper, and I'm just going to draw out a couple music notes. And this is colored paper, so I want to use the colors. I'm just going to draw right on top of it. Let's see. Get a black marker. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a music note. And if you're drawing something and you're not sure if it's symmetrical or how to make it symmetrical, but you want to add it to your design, all you have to do is draw it once, and then fold it in half, and when you're cutting it out, you're going to make the same exact shape twice, and you don't have to worry about it trying to make it twice without folding it. This is an easy way to do it, okay? So while I'm cutting it out, I'm just going to go around it just a bit. Then after I cut it out, I can go back over the second one that I didn't draw on and add the music notes to it with black marker. There we go. And there's a fold there, so I just have to cut it in half. Okay. So I'm going to add my music note backwards so that it's symmetrical. Another thing you could do with this project is you could turn it into a face. That would be really cool. Like if you, because like we talked about, if you split the body in half, it's symmetrical. So if you started cutting things out for like eyes and like a nose and like a mouth, and then adding like different shapes around it, kind of making like a symmetrical monster or something, that would be a fun design that you could create. Okay, so I think I'm going to stick my music notes right here. Cool. That's so fun. I'm almost done, I think. I think I just want to add maybe something here because it seems a little blank right here. So I am going to look for another instrument in my magazine, like this acoustic guitar right here. On Friday, we are going to be doing a symmetrical project, but the difference for that project is we're going to focus on like a metallic design, like a metal design, and we're going to be using aluminum foil and focusing on making it more like a radial symmetrical design, which just means it's like a circle, kind of like a snowflake. So that's going to look really cool. There we go. Okay. I'm going to fold it in half to find the middle. And then cut up the middle. Boom. Okay. Yeah, I think I want to do it like this. That would look cool. All right. So I'm going to stick my guitars up there and save this design for a time when I want to make a card for somebody else and I can turn it into a card, or maybe I know somebody who likes music and cooking and I can make them a notebook with this on the front. I love it. That turned out so good. All right, guys. I'm going to end that the project here, but like I said before, you can literally make layers and layers to this project. I would love to see your pictures and see what you guys have posted for this project. Make sure to check out the art kits if you guys are low on supplies and you just want a fresh start with some new supplies. I worked it out so the kits are really affordable, so check those out and let me know if you'd like one. And I will see you guys on Friday at 1 p.m. and we will make metal artwork design, symmetrical designs. Okay? Have fun creating, guys.